Hi everyone, it's me. If you're new here, my name is Alanna and I'm a Canadian, but I live here in the UK. And if you're not new here, hey, how's it going? It looks suspiciously gray outside. Like it could rain at any second. Welcome to England. Today we are off to a famous museum. Ta-da! You probably already know, it's probably in the title of this video, the Science Museum in London. Loads of people have been asking me, please go to the Science Museum. It's my favorite, I love it, yada yada yada. And I said, let's do it. And as with all my other museum trips, I don't research what's there. I don't have a look online. I want to just be surprised. So I booked my train ticket. I booked my museum ticket. I haven't booked any of the extras. We're just gonna go and we're just gonna see what happens. I'm just finishing my morning coffee and packing my bag. I got my cameras, I got my wallet, all my little bits, and actually have a new item to pack, the sponsor of today's video, and that is Huel. I basically never have breakfast first thing in the morning. I just find it's like really heavy and that makes me really tired. It takes time to make it. When I do these solo vlogs like today, I like to leave first thing. I'm not hanging around to make breakfast. Do you know what I mean? So I've started having Huel, which is a nutritionally complete food and one I don't have to make. In particular, I've been experimenting with Huel Light. It's got 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, 26 essential vitamins and minerals, and it is only 190 calories. So I just keep it in the fridge and then I can just grab it and go. Huel Light is great when I want something but nothing too heavy. And it's a great option for today. Today's gonna be a busy day. We're gonna be out all day. I obviously can't cook. I don't wanna cook this morning. I don't wanna have junk food when we're out either. I get the energy and the nutrition without all the heaviness. If you wanna check it out for yourself, make sure to use my link in the description and coupon code ADVENTURES10 for 10 pounds off your first order over 60 pounds. My personal favorite is the Huel Light Chocolate, which we are taking today. I'm gonna have this on the train. It's a long trip into London. However, second best favorite, banana. Anyway, with that, I need to get my coat. Umbrella or no umbrella? I always kind of go back and forth. I think I'm just gonna bring a hat, and if it rains, it rains. I just can't be bothered carrying an umbrella around, you know what I mean? Anyway, we gotta go. I don't wanna miss my train. I know I'm not gonna miss my train, but I feel like I'm gonna miss my train. And without further ado, let's go. Ta-da! With the power of editing, we're here. That's not the right door. That is. So I think it's kind of yucky. It's kind of gross to vlog like this in a museum. So Alanna editing this video is going to take over, but I will pop back in a bit. We are here. It is noisy, but I'm really excited. All right, everyone, buckle up. Alanna here. Another Alanna. My God, how many are there? So this museum, right off the bat, it's massive. Like absolutely massive. You start off in this big energy hall. This whole area is about steam, which personally I'm not really interested in, so I kind of glazed over it. It's still very cool, but I only got so much time. I only got so much energy. No pun intended. Actually, no pun intended. It's not that kind of video. So this area covers steam through the ages. Obviously, steam plays a huge part in machines, in science, but not my cup of tea personally. But I did notice on the museum map that there is a cafe here, like one of the major cafes. So I thought, well, before we get too deep into the museum, let's stop off and have some lunch. Every time I do one of these solo museum trips, I always get food at the cafe so I can compare. Love a good comparison. This was really good. This was definitely one of the better museum food options. I went for the adult meal deal or whatever. So I got a main chicken schnitzel, 2 sides, seasoned wedges, and then this edamame and lemongrass coleslaw, plus a full-size drink. This was 16 pounds. Now you might be thinking, oh my God, that's so much. For a tourist museum in the center of London, this is one of the better ones. The food was really good. That chicken was so nice. Hot and crispy, really filling. So definitely top tier museum cafes available. And let me tell you, I've been trying all of them, so I know. So I had a really nice lunch, and I have to be honest, maybe this doesn't make sense to you. If you're an anxious, kind of weird person like me, maybe it does make sense. The idea of having lunch alone used to make me so embarrassed. Like, how sad this woman is at a museum alone, having lunch alone. Like, how cringe. But honestly, nobody cares. Nobody cares. I had a great meal, real food with real cutlery. I sat by one of the windows so I could like people watch. And once you kind of like get over yourself, you realize like it doesn't matter. Just do it alone. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, after my very nice lunch, I wanted to get going. This kind of freaked me. I was like, oh my God, this space is the thing that I was like most excited about. It's still there. It's just moved. So you go through this really bright hallway. And on the other side is making the modern world. So any sort of machinery or what's the other word? Like items, inventions, I guess is the proper word. Inventions that went towards this sort of time period. It was really cool, but I gotta be honest, I was so excited to get to space. I kind of went through this rather quickly. I stopped off at some things that interest me, but I did a bit more on my way out. It's just I was really excited to get to space. Do you know what I mean? I could see that space sign at the very end of the hallway. I was just so excited. But anyway, there's some really cool stuff here. For any of the train spotters, we've got this Grand Junction Railway locomotive Columbine from 1845. This weird light caught my eye. This is the Alanna glass light from 1907. It's used, or was used in lighthouses. The rings of prisms in this lighthouse lens use the Fresnel principle to focus the beam. This gave the light maximum power and size without the lens being excessively thick, although the glass still weighs over 3 tons. I gotta be honest, when I thought about a science museum, I wasn't really thinking about lighthouses. But very cool, and it absolutely makes sense why it's here. Another thing that interests me was this engine. So this is the Rolls-Royce Merlin engine from 1943. This is the engine that powered the Hurricane and Spitfire fighters that won the Battle of Britain, which is crazy because I literally just did a video about it. Not about the engine, mind you, but about the Battle of Britain. And it was this engine that powered all those planes. There's also quite a few cars, of course, like the development of cars, the development of engines, and like the science that went into building these types of vehicles. Lots of different shapes and sizes, that's for sure. Plus some 3-wheeled vehicles. Can you imagine? Do you think they would pull me over if I took one of these little cars out on the motorway? And finally, walking through this exhibit to the space exhibit. This is the one that I was super excited about. Oh yeah, and these bells were just going. This space exhibit is quite big, so I just filmed some of the bigger pieces, some of the things that are really interesting to me. You obviously are going to have to come and have a look for yourself. Of course, the IMAX is also here, which I didn't do, and I don't feel like I missed out. So I would say these 2 modules were probably like the stars of the show. Let's start with the right one, the slightly bigger one. This, of course, is the Apollo 10 Command Module Charlie Brown from 1969. So this is the Apollo mission that went to the moon but didn't land. That would be the next mission, Apollo 11, 2 months later, which became the first mission to successfully put humans on the moon. And it is pretty crazy. Like, there are 3 grown men in that thing. 3 adult males. Insane. Also, this was one of like the testing command center with all the buttons that they could practice on. Can you imagine? Wow. I love this stuff. I love space stuff. It's just awesome. Then, of course, the other module to the left. Sorry, the lighting is a little bit funny. Just give it a second. So this is the Soyuz descent module and parachute from 2015. So this is used by the international crew, including Tim Peake, to reach and return from the International Space Station. The friction the Soyuz encountered as it plunged through the atmosphere during its return was so great, the surface burned away. This obviously helped slow its descent, along with the parachute that it comes with, which is the size of 2 tennis courts. Just behind these 2 modules is the Helen Sharman spacesuit. So I didn't know in 1991 she became the first Briton to fly in space. That's crazy. Anyway, this is her spacesuit. It does not look that high tech, I gotta be honest. Helen's mission was Juno, which took her to the Soviet Union's Mir space station, where she spent a week conducting experiments and speaking with school children by radio. And it wouldn't be a space exhibit without a little bit of moon rock, although that really does not show up very well. Just use your imagination. But behind there's these huge pieces which I was very excited about. The weird one in the back is a testing model for the Bepi Colombo spacecraft. This was launched in 2018 to study Mercury. It was used to make sure that the spacecraft design could withstand the harsh conditions it would encounter during launch, plus the 8-year journey it would need to make. Then we have the J2 rocket engine from 1966. This is the type of engine that first propelled human beings to another world. 6 J2 engines were used on the Saturn V rockets that took the astronauts to the moon between 1969 and 1972. There's a lot of really cool stuff here. Obviously, it depends. Oh, yeah, hold on. How much poo is on the moon? Good question. The short answer is a lot. Anyway, there's a lot of neat stuff here. It really just depends what your interests are. I've always really liked space, so this was the exhibit that I spent the most amount of time in. There's obviously a lot more here. Do come check it out. But once you leave this space, I found the staircase, went upstairs. The museum layout is kind of confusing because you can only get to certain floors, like from certain staircases and whatever, but left the space exhibit and went up. This is the Who Am I exhibit. I would classify this as like DNA, genetics, chromosomes, birth stuff, birth defects, like all that kind of evolutionary fertility kind of stuff, allergies. There's a lot. Personally, I just did a quick sort of walkthrough. It's very interesting to see which exhibits are quite busy and which are kind of empty. This one was kind of empty, and I wasn't really that interested in it either. Still worth like a walkthrough, but yeah, like chromosomes and like birth stuff. Learning about your body and gender and all sorts of fun stuff. So I just had a quick walkthrough and then continued on. The next floor up was the energy revolution. So this was talking a lot about like new types of energies and energy for the future. Also a nearly empty exhibit. Not super exciting, gotta be honest. Not for me, right? Everybody has their different interests. I walked through, I read a couple of things. There's definitely a lot here and a lot of interesting displays, but nothing that I was willing to spend too much time on. Is that fair to say? The exhibit that I wanted to spend more energy on was this one, the flight area. This was jam-packed with planes, helicopters, engines, all sorts of stuff. If you have any interest in this sort of area of science, there is so much here. So I did a slow walk around. I spent some time here, read a bunch of plaques. You know, because you can only read so many plaques until you just like, oh, also look at the size of this engine. Huge. I know, crazy. Anyway, I forget what I was saying. Oh, there's this whole wall of engines from front of the room to back of the room, and it's a big room. So many engines in different stages of like being taken apart so you can see inside. If you're into this kind of stuff, crazy. Of course, this whole area, this whole exhibit goes through like aviation through the years. So different technologies, different types of planes, different the evolution of the plane. Is that lame? That's like what we're looking at. But I was kind of surprised there wasn't a lot of people in here because this seemed like this was one of the most interesting spots for me personally. But again, everybody's got different interests. Thankfully, there was no school trips in this particular room. At least not when I was there. But I thought the layout of this exhibit was really interesting. There's so much to look at. But there's also like a secondary sort of platform. You can kind of see the stairs. So you can kind of look at everything from up above. And I picked out some of the things that were interesting to me. So this is a biplane from 1916. 1916, can you believe it? Incredible. This one is a monoplane from 1909. I can't even imagine flying in something quite like it, but I thought this was really cool because they also show you what the inside of the wing looked like all the slats when you take away the exterior. Incredible. This guy, crazy. Look at this next one once we get past this elevator. Oh, and also, we saw that one. Still very cool. Look at this guy on the left with the double wing, double engine. Like, crazy stuff. Anyway, I could just continue on. There's some really cool planes. If that's something that you're interested in, obviously you need to spend some time here. There's a lot to read. This helicopter stood out from the 1960s. really small, I guess smaller than I've never been in a helicopter before. I know you can do like helicopter rides and whatever. I've never been in one before. This one just looked really small to me. And then of course a combination of modern planes, vintage planes, planes through the history. This was definitely, I'd say next to space, this was my favorite. After leaving the flight exhibit, I came into this room. I think this is the information age, but there's like this platform that I was just walking on. I was just like, me, myself, and I was like, okay. But it was cool to kind of look down on things, but you couldn't read anything from up there. This room looked like a lot of sort of computers, that kind of technology, phones, telephones, laptops. Yes, we will get to all that stuff. Mind blowing. But you can kind of see how big the museum is and how laid out it is. So I came down the stairs because I really want to see, what is that? I've never seen such a thing. Opened in 1926, the Rugby radio station was one of the world's most powerful radio transmitters. So this achieved global coverage in the 1920s, enabling one-way Morse communication to Britain's growing empire. And it is absolutely massive. But also, again, see how like laid out and like open the museum is? It doesn't feel like claustrophobic in any way. Some museums do. I felt like throughout this museum, everything had its own space. On a foggy November night in 1922, the words, "This is 2LO calling," announced the arrival of the BBC. So this is a transmitter used by the BBC London station L2O in 1922 to 1925. It's huge, it's so intricate, and yet its reach was still only just for London at this time. Moving along through this exhibit, you can see there's basically nobody here. And that was so nice. It was so nice to just like walk at my own pace. I could read what I want. I didn't have to like push through to try and get to a plaque. It was so chill. One of the reasons I really loved this area is the computers. And maybe you might recognize some of these, or some of the cell phones, definitely. This one here, the bright yellow one, is a Apple Macintosh from 1984. And then, of course, right beside it, the first Microsoft Windows operating system. Insane. Obviously, I wasn't born in the 80s when these things were launched, but this was kind of the first time I've been to a museum where I've seen things that I have firsthand, like, interactions with, like the cell phones and stuff. And it also made me realize how much cell phones in particular and computers have progressed in such a short amount of time. You can kind of see them through the eras, through the different decades. Crazy. This was just kind of like humbling. The next exhibit was focused primarily on like mathematics. Beautiful room. I did kind of quickly walk through this. I'm so sorry if you guys are into that. You're going to have to visit for yourself. A couple of things stood out that I took a moment to read. I was getting to the point where I'd kind of read too many plaques at this point. I was happy to just kind of like casually walk through. But I did stop and read about the Elliott 401 computer from 1954. This was used at the Rothamsted Agricultural Institute. And this computer was instrumental in pioneering statistical research under Ronald Fisher. He laid the foundation for much of modern statistical theory, including randomizations critical in clinical and agricultural trials today. But there were loads of pieces like that where it was monumental in a particular field of science or math, or it laid the groundwork for modern equations or medical trials. Also, look at this giant engine just in the hallway. So there's a lot here, and I really think if you have a particular interest in something, you could spend hours in a particular gallery reading about all the items. Moving on, we go into Science City. This is from 1550 onwards. Well, not onwards, until 1800s. And it's here that we've kind of made our way back to sort of the entrance. If we look down below, that is like the steam area. So we've kind of come back to the front of the museum. Gorgeous museum, by the way. It is kind of laid out a little bit awkward because you can't get to these floors from the back of the museum, but whatever. What I thought was really nice here is these gold plaques, and I kind of wish they did them everywhere, but it kind of helped you focus on like, hey, maybe you're a bit overwhelmed. Why not look at this? Maybe focus on this one if you don't know what you're looking at. I'm just a girly, I'm not a girly in STEM, but I can see Isaac Newton's name and I go, oh, maybe I should take a minute and look at this. Loads of books from Sir Isaac Newton, if you will. This is from 1687. There was one from the 1700s beside him. We got a beautiful little portrait, we got a portrait of him. But I did like these gold plaques. So you're getting like a bit maybe plaqued out, and you're walking along, you're like, wow, this is really cool. Loads of cool stuff. I don't really know what I'm looking at. Getting a bit tired. And then all of a sudden, a gold plaque. This was fire damaged stone from the original St. Paul's Cathedral. Just give it a second. The lighting's a bit hard on this one. This poor camera was really struggling with some of the lights in these exhibits. There we go. But I thought that was so crazy, from the original before it burned down, the Great Fire. Very cool. I hadn't seen that anywhere before. And then we just continued to have a bit of a wander, a bit of a mooch around. Again, you can see it's very like open. I don't know. I feel like there's so much space in this museum. It doesn't feel claustrophobic. All of the pieces get quite a bit of their own space, if that makes sense. And also there's like nobody there. I guess the little kitties didn't care about this stuff. Oh, look at this thing. I thought this was crazy. So this is the Grand Orrery, showing the movement of the planets, 1733, originally owned by Queen Caroline, wife of King George II, originally in Kensington Palace. I thought the horse heads, why do we got horse heads on it? I don't know, but it looks crazy. Now, I didn't film all of the exhibits. If you see the bottom floor is Steam. That's where we started. That's where we had lunch. The second floor I walked through, but I didn't film that section at least. And then this upper floor had a wander through. There's just a lot. I mean, there's a whole section on grandfather clocks. But of course, it was time for the gift shop. Had a wander through. Absolutely massive. There's a couple of things where I thought, ooh, that's kind of cool. Maybe I should take you home with me. But I refrained. I just looked. Okay, I just had a little bit of a nose. But a massive gift shop. And some really cool stuff. And with that, it's time to meet up with Alanna outside the museum for some final thoughts. Hi everyone. So let's just have a sit. I am so sweaty. I think they prematurely turned the heating on. Science Museum, if you see this, you don't need the heating on yet. Not yet. One of the unexpected things that I've found since doing these solo trips, and particularly the solo like attractions and like the solo museums and that kind of stuff, is I can just kind of pick and choose what I want to do and glaze over the rest. As with all London museums, there's just too much to see in one day. Like Science Museum, about 2 hours. I didn't even go through all of the exhibits. There's a lot, and you're never going to see it in one trip. You might not even see it in 2 trips, or at least not like digest what you've read, because there's just so much. So one thing that I do like is being able to go in and be like, right, I'm gonna walk into an exhibit. Does this exhibit look interesting to me? No? I'll have a cursory glance, but then I'll walk on into the next one. Does this one look interesting? Yes, I would like to read stuff. I'd like to spend some time here. You only have so much energy, right? You don't have the energy to do the whole thing. So for me, I loved space, obviously. I loved the flight with all like the planes and the helicopters and the engines and stuff. That was really cool. I also really liked I think it was called the Information Age. I spent a lot of time there, like with the computers and the radios and that kind of stuff. Sorry, is that really loud? Apologies. A lot of school trips. I tried not to film the kids because that's weird to put it on YouTube, but a lot of school trips, a lot of very young kids, but if you walk fast enough, you can usually get past them. But overall, I had a really nice time. I'm tired. I've seen enough. I've enjoyed what I've seen. You do get to a point where you read so many plaques and it's like, I've read enough. I'm not keeping any more information in. I'm happy with what I've seen. Would I recommend this museum? Absolutely. Absolutely. The problem with London is there's almost too many museums. So if you're only here for like a day, you really have to pick what is the most interesting thing for you. And if it is science and math and medicine and space, then this one. If that's not really your vibe, then there's a million other museums to pick from. But if you are here for more than a day, I would absolutely recommend it. I had a lot of fun. I will be back. It's free. Can you believe that? That whole thing is free. There are, there's the IMAX, which I kind of thought, oh, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. This was very enjoyable on a free ticket without any of the paid exhibitions, without the IMAX, like very enjoyable, without having to pay anything extra. Anyway, what a beautiful day. Can I just show you guys where I'm sitting? I mean, we are kind of close to a road, but look at the architecture around here. Just gorgeous. Can you imagine like living across the road? Is that Victoria and Albert, the V&A? Leave a comment down below. I'm pretty sure. The nice thing is, if you are doing like a day trip or anything, I mean, I don't think you should do multiple museums in one day, but the museums, like the big ones, are all really close to each other. Anyway, I'm gonna sit here for a little bit and catch my breath, then I gotta go back on the tube, back on the train, back home. But this has been a really nice day. I'm really genuinely enjoyable. Anyway, there's a bunch of kids looking. Love that. If you made it to the end of this video, honestly, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you would like to watch something else, can I suggest one of my other solo trips? I went to the British Museum to see the best of bits in only 1 hour. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, bye.